Hey everybody, welcome back to Honeycomb Manila. My name is Keo Kosha and I'm joined today by Illac Diaz of Liter of Light. Now, Liter of Light actually works here in Honeycomb, and that's kind of the purpose of the All Things Creative show, is to highlight what's going on in Honeycomb. A lot of the times that's streetwear, sports marketing, art, coffee, but we also want to take time to talk to the people who call Honeycomb their home, right? So a little bit about Liter of Light. Liter of Light is a non-profit NGO, but it's also a social enterprise that has offices in 32 different countries around the world. And this is their global headquarters here. And though Liter of Light does a lot of work around the world, they're doing something special this year on Bonifacio Day in Luneta. So we're here to talk a little bit about that so that you guys can understand what Liter of Light is, what they do, and how you can get involved in this project here in the Philippines. Because Liter of Light actually has a number of world records, is that right?
Right. So Liter of Light basically teaches people how to build their solar lights in the villages. These lights basically are to start out what is called as green jobs, not from a top down, which is, giving solar lights, and then they basically, it's already made, imported, patented, expensive, and when it breaks, they have to throw it away and then go into debt again. Liter of Light basically teaches you how to repair, build, and in fact scale with technologies that we turn over to that region. So the world record basically is to show people how we do it here in the Philippines. And so we get hundreds, if not, we've crossed thousands of young people coming in one stage for the largest sustainability lesson, that's what they call it. And then afterwards, they all come together and then they build the solar lights, and then we make artworks out of it, right? So to show the power of scale, it's hard to do it when everybody's in a production line. Mm-hmm. But then when they put it in a large, artwork, it's just really, it's a boom. You see that power of scale.
The lights themselves, they go to places that don't have light.
Right.
Solar, LEDs, it's a way of bringing sustainable, renewable energy to places that are still not just on the grid, but places that are off the grid and kerosene dependent.
Right. So I'll put numbers to that. 1.2 billion people around the world do not have access to electricity. And if you multiply that or a little bit times 2, those are the people that have access to electricity but cannot afford. Case in point here in the Philippines, the third highest in Asia with some of the highest poverty rates. I mean,
I've heard you say that number. It's something like 13 million or more.
13 million Filipinos don't have access to electricity. So
to any electricity whatsoever.
And this is not those that can't afford, which is, another one. But the 13 million is where you're talking about. They use expensive kerosene. Kerosene drives, or carbon-based fuel drives this. But, to get it there, it's basically you have to get it from the ground or import it. It's available in the stations. But for them, they have to go down the villages, across maybe channels to get constant. So
take a boat.
Well, not only 35% of their village income or their income, right? But even just the human expense of spending time to keep that way of providing carbon fuels. And now with solar, it's one of the cheapest in the world. The problem is we only buy products, but we do not build our own. So if the world has to solve poverty, you have to put it in millions of hands to the people that need it, and not just top down, which is a few companies manufacturing it, but you have to import it across the world. The numbers in the United Nations say that 60 to 80% of humanitarian funds are logistics.
Travel,
right?
Buying, selling.
Humanitarian funds goes into payment of managers, the trucks, the containers, the ships, to get you through customs. All of this is because we're importing these devices, which is solar, but we have to bring it from other countries. So I really like the fact that we're doing something simple, just for reading, for mobile chargers, for streetlights, keeping people safe. but we are building a bottom-up approach to it, and I can tell you more about that.
So what happens is that these devices, so we have a few of them here. You have one fully assembled there and one here that we've broken apart, or these are all of the parts, and it's a no solder system. You don't need that much technical expertise. You can teach yourself on YouTube or with a manual, but you guys actually go to villages and teach women cooperatives how to build these things and how to maintain them.
Well, the business model really is like Habitat. Like Habitat does not get donated houses. What they do is they get donations for the materials. Then they charge the company for the experience of building it, and then they turn it over, right? So what we do is we get corporates to do like hundreds of these things. We do about 1 million people impacted a year. So that's about 600,000 courses a year all around the world. This is another thing post-COVID because they don't allow us in. But what happens is we teach them how to do it. Then we give that stock, let's say 100, to a woman cooperative. And that women cooperative starts renting it out. So we basically start out this kind of solar entrepreneurship without a heavy cost. Now, it's interesting because if there's anything that goes wrong, they must repair it there, right?
They have to be able to do it.
And then they have customers, right? And these customers are demanding as well. Not in the same way that they're demanding in the city, but, social capital is really important there. Hey,
when you say customers, you mean the people who also live in those villages.
Right. So they exchange their kerosene lamp for 5 pesos a day, operating expense or more. And what happens is now they have a solar light, which they can rent out for 20, 30 pesos a week and charge as many times as you can. So
and it'll last for how long?
Oh, that lasts for 5 years.
Okay.
But the battery, you can go to, let's say you're in Sagada, you can go to Baguio and you can get a 18650 or more commonly the vape batteries.
And that's this thing.
And that's it. And then if your LED breaks, that's a motorcycle LED. So you can basically get the LED from one of the most common vehicles around the country. So
I think the numbers for motorcycles, if you have something like 2 to 3 motorcycles per 4-wheeled vehicle. In the country.
It's 12 volts. It works off the same thing. But the nice
and
thing
then this is the leaker. This is the recycled plastic bottle.
that
goes into the cap.
The big problem before was glass injection. I mean, where do you get glass injectors, right? To be able to scale something on a village level. But plastic bottles, especially, the ones that have soft drinks or, you can cut that and just basically change that over. So that's widely available.
It just needs to align to this PVC section.
That size is one of the most common.
And that's why you chose to use it.
The PVC is also crushed. So bottle caps, we gather bottle caps or even the supplier. We ask them to take crushed bottle caps and make it into PVC. We use that because a lot of the agricultural areas, like say in Banawe, they actually go out at night to be able to tend to their farms. This is when the trees release the water into the Banawe rice terraces, so they have to regulate. So they do that at night because during the day it's dry. So you basically see like fireflies with liter of light, but it has to be waterproof. They drop it. We have coffee farmers that use it for other means. But even we have one that is for fishermen that blinks so they don't get run over by ships.
So it goes on the boat because they don't have light in the boats, and you can't light a kerosene light on a boat
for that, for overnight, right?
Yeah, you might burn the boat down and sink, right?
Well, also because it's just expensive. So, now with overfishing, the fishermen have to go farther into the sea. And that's where this clash between big boats and the small fishermen that have run out, of fishes next to the shore is all about. So we have a lot of stories about that. Anyway, the point is you could build with simple radio parts, anywhere that you can get anywhere in the major cities. PVC pipes, you can use bamboo. The technology is to harvest the sun, store it, and at the same time use it for electricity.
To offset that 30% that
and
they're
you can
spending
do it
on
a village level. And that will come out like having ideas, but also private entrepreneurs will start doing it in a bigger scale. And it starts a localized solar industry.
All right. So at this point, it's COVID pandemic, and these rooms that you guys used to fill, these hotel rooms of 500,000 corporate employees, right, with big corporations building these lights,
like 2 to 3 times a year. We were doing well. We were really doing well, expanding.
And half a year you haven't been able to do it.
We just opened up Nigeria. We opened up, Argentina, Colombia. I mean, it was really doing well. We were saying finally a Filipino social enterprise that finally has offices around the world, because that was the dream, right? To actually show that Filipino NGOs can go global, but sustainably and with a staff, and
not just being a basket case of receiving charity all the time, but being able to give not just a product but an idea that can offset poverty. The case study is here, but that's a problem that is global. It is everywhere, and in a time of a pandemic has not gone away. It's gotten worse.
Worse. I mean, the two things that the Philippines are known for is you can go anywhere around the world and they're asking money for poverty, for charity. With all that, so for so many years, you don't have that other narrative where the Philippines is giving back. It's like, hey, it's not our role in the world to give back in a global sense, right?
But we have so much to give, because like you actually see now in the pandemic, right? A huge chunk of frontliners are giving back to the world. Like, you can't find a hospital anywhere that isn't staffed with Filipinos.
20% or up to 1/4 of New York frontliners are Filipinos.
Wow.
20% of the global, this is an estimate, are Filipinos. Usually nurses are, not taken for granted in a way in another world before pandemic. But now where, they are the lifeline, they're the front line, suddenly we've come out. And that's where, this COVID project of ours, where we almost went bankrupt, and through this digital campaign that we're now doing here and around the world, launching around the world, we're starting to get that financial strength back. For many years, Filipino NGOs, we could not grow out of the bodega, the side room, because we were always waiting for charity. So we were always small, few people, but then social enterprise came in where you could sell your nonprofit services and still help the group and still get to pay for rent and expansion.
And that's a big difference between a social enterprise and a straight out charity.
Right.
Social enterprise is designed from the start to have its own sustainability built in to the business.
That's groundbreaking, because it's like, SM, you started out with a small stall or bringing it around. I mean, like us, we pedaled from company to company to now being in Honeycomb, but also our operations very streamlined. That way, our offices around the world are 1 to 2 offices, but that's 220 employees. But what's interesting is that comes from the Philippines. From PayPal, with the donation, we get $5,000, and then we open another office. It's not easy coming from the Philippines and doing that. But yes, it's what changed our role from handout into basically a beneficiary to being a benefactor. So when we go there, they expect the people from the Philippines to actually light up the refugee camps. It's quite different from when I first started, when they actually thought that I was like the secretary or no. I said, no, I'm the founder. And
you invented all of this.
So you're working for me. Like when in the camps, they thought that I was, somebody to work for somebody, the head, but actually I was the one that hired them, and they could not picture it. They could not imagine us taking a senior role. And that's not to say that we always do. I'm just saying it's about time that they see the great contribution to humanity by Filipinos, and recognizing that we can also take the lead in it.
So speaking about tributes, on Bonifacio Day in Luneta, you guys are doing a artwork of Andres Bonifacio.
Yes.
Right? At Luneta in the city of Manila. You're working hand in hand with the city of Manila and the IATF to make sure that it's all done safely, and it will be the world's largest solar artwork.
Yeah.
And it will be a picture of Bonifacio in tribute to the frontliners.
So Bonifacio was the first frontliner. I mean, I love Bonifacio. I mean, it's just the great stories for me. Now, I want to pay tribute because right now, a lot of people are talking about the Filipinos, but they're talking about us like, how do you call it? A label, frontliners. What I'd like to do is to tell our story, not them to tell the story. Yes, tell the story, but it is our duty to be able to say Filipinos, individuals. So each light will have a name. The first 250 frontliners. Many have died. Many are still serving. Some with COVID. The first 250 would like to give tribute. There's many more out there, but we would like to give it a name, right?
So it's going into the holidays, ending 2020 by honoring these people
who have died,
and given, right, globally.
And brand and say Filipinos are a large working force on the front lines. Right now, you just get it on Facebook. People dying here, people getting sick here. Medical frontliners that infected their families or have to be isolated from their families. These are stories. You can't just say frontliners because it desensitizes the fact that, that these are Filipinos. So I'm thinking to brand. We need to have a day where people can see scale. It's like one of the inspiration was really the Place de la République in France when people were not allowed to protest against climate change.
Oh, this is with the shoes.
Yeah, so they put their shoes. Even the Pope put their shoes, but it personalizes the fact that there are people dying of climate change. There are people protesting.
These are real people.
And so I think it's important this year when so many gave their lives that in the Philippines, we tell our story the way that we tell our story. Now, what's important with our story is there's nothing to waste. We don't want to waste anything.
So the tribute is one that doesn't go out. So you're saying the light lasts for 5 years. So it's like lighting a candle for these people in tribute to them. But it's a candle that doesn't go out for 5 years, and it will go
and you can fix it, right?
to your countrymen who need it,
right?
So farmers
you Filipinos are the light in these dark times, and that light, it's not like we can have like another rock concert. You cannot do anything that you can waste anything. So after we do that, we will give the light. And give it to somebody that really needs it. A lot of places in the villages now do not have the money to pay for kerosene. So before, the good old times of just burning money because kerosene, it was convenient, was there because tourists were coming in. But now without tourists,
because tourists would bring money from the city, from other countries, it would go to them, and they had that money to spend.
Tattoo, beadwork.
Cultural shows.
We are a tourism country.
Yeah.
And so now they realize there is no money coming. And we need to keep our kids. The kids are the first one, right? So the kids study. They need to keep those lights open. So they are taking it away from savings.
And if you remember, like all of these trucks that got stopped, those are all agricultural goods that went to waste. And now they didn't make the money.
So
we have to be able to replace that 30% that they're spending on energy, on kerosene. And if we can replace it with a solar light, with systems that they can build.
No, it's not big, but when we do this right, and you'll talk about this, the light it forward and why it's so different. That's important. So each light will light the family's lives.
So with Light It Forward, this is your current campaign to get people to build the lights at home, because you can't put 500 people in a hotel room, right? Or in an office to build all of these things together. So what you can do now is you can go on Lazada. You guys have partnered with Lazada to do both to handle the logistics of delivery and picking it up. So that system that Lazada has in place for picking up defective goods, warranty returns, exchanges, wrong size, that's a backhaul that can be used to deliver it back. So you go on Lazada, you buy one of these, you buy a kit and it comes in a sanitized bag, and you can build it online, and lots of celebrities have been doing this as well. If you go
400 now, we're crossing. It's the largest celebrity led in the history of campaigns. I mean, this is like I said, it was inspired by Ice Bucket Challenge, but we really have a chance to do the ice bucket of this century, which is the sustainable development goals that we have with an Ice Bucket Challenge base.
All right, so if people want to get involved, they can go online and get one of these kits. And I have one here. They're sanitized and disinfected. So Liter of Light actually has a room full of UV lights and then they flip them over, get them done. And then you get this kit, and the kit comes with the light itself, right, which you build. It comes in parts. Yeah. And the circuit.
So all that you need.
Circuit.
Can you imagine that these are all that you need to make a solar light? I mean, it's for so many years, right?
It comes with the screwdriver.
Yeah.
Right? And you also get the solar panel, so you can test it.
Yeah.
You can test it at home to make sure that you've done everything correctly, and then the instructional.
But there's also YouTube step-by-step, and of course you can dial us or dial a friend, and we will Zoom if it's a large group. So we can also do large-scale Zoom where people can ask us how to build the solar lights. People that build it, you can easily test it if it actually charges. So this is not one of those things that you're just guessing. You can actually, you can actually see it charge
And make sure that you did the right. You built
circuit.
it correctly.
This is the easiest way to build solar lights. I mean, can you imagine where before many people thought that it was so complex that you needed like factories and lasers? They do it, which is they make circuits. They etch it, right?
Yep.
But there's no way for people to find out what it is, and there's no way for people to repair it.
That's a big problem.
Because the business model is for you to break it, and there's no way for you to know how to fix it, right?
And if you guys know your history, this is going back to 150 years of electricity and how light bulbs were designed to break.
Yeah.
And we have to re-engineer that in a modern world so that it is less wasteful. And this is why when you're building a circular economy, you're also building the ability to repair and receive, right?
And there's no reason why we cannot harvest from the sun. Like, these are small, but based on this idea, people are re-engineering to light up small houses because they're realizing, oh my gosh, for so long, we've been led to believe that this kind of small, micro solar is only something that we can buy in stores. And so with the advent of, of course, a shared knowledge and working with other people, we found out that, hey, why are we not starting our economy, our green economy, from the bottom up? And that involves building this stuff and maintaining this stuff and making business with it on a village level. Green economies for the United States in Europe is like installing large-scale solar because people with money want to reduce their expensive electricity costs. This is something also important for us. People in the villages are also using like automotive batteries that break. You're not supposed to charge those stuff with solar. You need like a deep cycle battery, but everything here is available. It's easy to do, and at the same time, people are now making micro businesses, not with the foundation, but their own businesses, lighting up townships with brighter, bigger solar lights. Once they get it,
it keeps on growing.
Yeah.
It keeps on growing. And also, like in those other places that you're talking about, when you need to replace a power plant with a solar power plant, that's easy if you have a grid, right? You can just plug in your new power plant into the old grid. But a lot of the places that we're dealing with in Banawe, in
the archipelago, it's an archipelago.
It's an archipelago, right? How do you transmit electricity over those channels.
And who's gonna pay for it, right? So
Yeah.
you don't run a wire without a long-term plan, and that's why most schools in the rural areas they do have sometimes it's solar, but the thing is they're designed to break as well. So what I'm saying is we need to shift into a technology where you can repair it in modules.
And it can be taught. That's the big thing, is that it can be taught. So if you go online, you go to Lazada, you buy one of these, it costs about 1,800.
Go to 1,800 because of our operations.
So there's operations that covers the cost of the materials, the education.
Of course, there's the storage. There's things that that help us in the foundation. But this is a very different cost for the women in the villages that can buy it directly.
So what you're actually building is the prototype. You're making a sample for the women in those villages that they will use to build new ones.
Yeah, and people are thinking like, why are you teaching people where to get the parts? And you're talking about 30 million, okay? So I'm just putting it in scale because so many people ask me like, are you crazy? Don't you want to hide the technology and once it breaks you? And I said, no, for the rest of my life, times 5, times 10, I can keep on doing this, and 1.2 billion around the world for all the organization. I will never run out of things to do. There is a more remote location. So it's better for us to establish a corner or a village that can serve as a hub of knowledge, and then for our organization to take the next one and then the next one, so that at least we're helping as many as we can. And that's why this question, why are you teaching people at home? Why are people teaching in villages? Is because we want to replicate that ourselves as much as possible so that we can have a standard chance of helping, rather than saying we are the Messiah. We are the only hub of technology, which is, I think, the worst case to do it. We were born in people power, and I really believe the power of the people is our great story and our great contribution to solving, these problems of energy poverty.
Illac Diaz. So we have a lot that we can talk about in the future. Yeah. I'm sure we'll get you back at some point because there's always a project. There's always stuff around the world. But I thought it's a great time to get you in here and talk about something that's happening right now. I encourage you guys to get involved. We are paying tribute to the frontliners, but we are also addressing a problem that did not go away. It got worse. And we want to dedicate the continuing work that needs to be done in the country to those who have given so much this year.
Please go to lightitforward.ph. As we cross our 1,000th workshop, we need 1,500 more to make this huge artwork. Or if you want to see your favorite celebrities, businessmen, just the ordinary people that are our new heroes building solar lights, you can go to Litter of Light. So lightitforward.ph on our website and Litter of Light on our Instagram. So please join us.
All right. So with that, thank you, Illac, for joining us. If you guys want to learn more, you can go to those websites. Follow us on Instagram. We are at Honeycomb Manila on Instagram. You can follow me at KO Kosha on Instagram as well. And those are ways that you can also learn about all the stuff that's going on here at Honeycomb, this just being one of them. And we wish you good luck. We're looking forward to see that final product in
November 30.
November 30. You'll see it on our YouTube, but you'll also see it on the news.
Yeah.
All right. We wish you good luck. We wish you good health. Light it forward. Peace.